Hey guys, I'm Stef Z, and I'm here to talk How to Get Away with Murder, Season 3, Episode 10. I know it's been a while, but we're all excited to be back. I know this is getting up a few days late, but I'm going to get back on track. Oh my goodness, what a start, or mid-season break start. But it is insane what is happening in this show, and I would really like to know if when they first started this show, they kind of had many seasons all laid out, or if they just kind of keep going with it and they're like, well, do we go this way or do we go that way? So if anyone has read anything about that, please let me know. But we start this off with, we have some flashbacks, which is they always do, and they always do really good flashbacks. But the flashback of Wes wanting immunity because it turns out he finds out, well, he puts the pieces together once they show them pictures of Rebecca, and how Rebecca, his old girlfriend, he now has put the pieces together that probably Annalise or someone related to Annalise, we know it wasn't Annalise directly, it was Bonnie, and Frank, and all those other people that kill everybody. But we now see that Wes found out that Rebecca was killed. So therefore, I think he finally doesn't trust Annalise, or he doesn't care anymore to trust, but we see him going in to get immunity. He never signs the papers in order to receive immunity, but we see him going in, we see him saying stuff. So we don't know who knows what, who told who what, but it does get a little fishy. And, at the end of this episode, which I'm not going to go to yet, we do see what happens after Wes walks out of the police station. But let's just rewind, go back. The end of last, it wasn't season, the mid-season. We finish off the mid-season with Wes being dead at the house, at Annalise's house. We see Annalise is drunk. She's having a fire in the fireplace. The house blows up, but she's not in it. Wes apparently is dead, which we get mixed reviews. At first, we hear that, the autopsy says that he was dead beforehand. Then later in the episode, we hear that he was actually dead by smoke. So is something fishy there? Are people messing with evidence? I think so. Everything's always dirty and convoluted in this show, so who knows what really happened. But again, that's what we're going to find out this time, who killed Wes. And I'm going to just make some bold predictions later, like I do, just kind of saying who, what, when, where, why, and none of it really has any rhyme or reason, just maybe what I think. And I'd love to know what you think, so definitely leave in your comments what you think and what you think is going to happen, who you think killed Wes. And, we have something that stuck out to me in the beginning of the episode, and I don't know if this stuck out to anyone else, but we see Annalise outside the school, and we see Wes playing soccer with his girlfriend at the time, Maggie. And now he does say, Annalise is kind of she looks like she wants an introduction. And Wes is like, that would be weird, wouldn't it? Now, I don't understand why that would be so weird. I get that there's so much going on in the world, and she's not just a regular teacher-student relationship. But clearly, people know who people are dating. They know about each other. I'm sure we know Maggie knows who Annalise is. So why that introduction would be weird stuck out to me for some reason. And again, I'm just pulling stuff out of the sky. Who knows if that means anything? But it did definitely stick out for a minute for me. So, we'll go back to that. But, we see pretty much is the big things that are happening is Annalise is in jail, and we see her struggling so much with being in jail, which as you would, if that's not your lifestyle and if that's not what you're used to, and then you're in there and you didn't do it, or maybe you think you did it, or you feel responsible, having all that time on your hands to think about stuff just probably is not good. So we're going to see what shakes out with that. I personally don't think Annalise is going to be in jail for that long. And again, at the end, we see some other things, but the reasoning at the end of this episode, I don't think will shake out, and she'll spend a little bit more time in jail. But I don't know, maybe she'll meet up with somebody in jail and find out a bigger picture crime, murder, something. I don't know. My brain's just going, to all these different possibilities, like I like to do. And again, I want to hear from you. I don't know what you think and what you want to see happen, in this show. Then we go to Laurel. It's kind of like Laurel, I don't know that she has information. I mean, she says she's in a hospital bed. She's pretty banged up. She's pregnant, we know. And we'll get to a little bit more of the scenes that happen in the hospital. But, you know, she's still clearly in pain. She's aware enough, though, to know that when Bonnie comes to visit her, Bonnie just wants to make sure that everybody's safe, which means pretty much that Laurel is going to lie, or she wants to know if there's anything that there is that she knows to make sure that Bonnie knows as well. Now, I do think there's still something fishy with Bonnie and Frank, but is Frank using Bonnie? I don't know. We're going to have to figure all that out and see, but everything is so intertwined at this point in time. Now we have Bonnie was talking to Laurel in there, and then we have Connor. Now, Connor is definitely on edge, and I don't want to go as far as to say, is he acting and is he somewhat involved, and he's always kind of been a little bit more, not out of line, but he's always kind of been a little bit more aggressive, but it's different this time. It's aggressive in a way that, I don't know, it makes me feel something, and we're going to have to figure out what that means. But, you know, when Bonnie comes out of visiting Laurel, pretty much Connor is questioning Bonnie, like, well, is this what you want? You know, how do we know we really can't see her? And he's actually right. So the fact that he's right is making me curious. And I was actually very curious that nobody went behind Bonnie's back and went in to see Laurel in the first place, because I feel like that's what you would do. I feel like why would anyone trust Bonnie? Who trusts Bonnie? You know, like, why would anyone trust Bonnie? And that's kind of what you do. And we find out, you know, after that, we see Oliver leave, and Oliver just wants to be by himself. So that pretty much paints the picture of this. Oh, I guess we're back. It said it was live, and then it went not live, and then I was sending a text. So if you were watching that and bored, sorry about that. But hopefully it will pick up, you know, where it was. And we were talking about Laurel being in the hospital and Bonnie coming in there pretty much telling everyone that they shouldn't go visit her. And again, I was a little shocked that no one, you know, pushed through and did go visit her. And with that said, once we do have, you know, these different situations with Laurel in the hospital, we'll discuss those as a whole first. It was kind of like, you know, we know that she's pregnant. We see a disclaimer, not a disclaimer, but we see, like, we know before the rest of them know that it's Wes's baby. So we see that happening. And it kind of, once she does get to see the cops come in to see her after Bonnie, and they pretty much want her, or they're trying to pin this on Annalise. And Laurel knows, or at least she thinks she knows, that Annalise would not do this. So she says Annalise didn't do it, and she pretty much says it's your job to figure out who did. She's not going to say, even though she thinks it might be Frank. That's what she tells Bonnie. But again, Bonnie and Frank, they're in cahoots somehow. They're on a team somehow. I'm not quite sure why, how, and how that's going to shake out, and if Frank's just using Bonnie. But they're still very connected. Now, so after they leave, then, you know, we have the scene where Michaela and Asher and Connor go in to see her, and pretty much, you know, Connor, again, just being very condescending, rude, cocky, whatever the word, you know, whatever the choice word you want to use, but pretty much he's just saying that, why didn't you say it was Annalise? And then pretty much he just goes off on a limb and says that he's glad that Wes is dead because Wes started this all by killing Sam. That leads Laurel to say that Wes is the father of the baby. And then what happens is kind of weird. We see rage from Asher. And then because Connor says something like weightless wouldn't have made a good dad anyway type thing, and Asher just punches Connor and then gets on top of him and punches and punches and punches. So it was pretty much like Asher was just waiting to blow a gasket, and he took it out on Connor, and Michaela got all pissed, but in the same sense, like, I don't know. Not that I think that violence is good, but I might do something crazy if I was the guy in the room with the other guy who was being such a jerk. I might push him out of the room. I might remove him from the situation. I don't know that punching him in the face is justified, but I understand why Asher, like, they're all such on edge. So that happened in the hospital bed as well. And then we see at the end, we see Frank come meet up with Laurel and talk to Laurel. And Laurel said something to Frank that, man, if anyone's ever said this to you, or if you ever say this to anyone, man, it's harsh. She said, I loved him so much more than I ever loved you, which is, woo, which again, then, you know, we'll talk about what Frank's actions are after that. But pretty much she sent a message to Frank like, you screwed up bad. So that's kind of what happens with Laurel and what we take away from the hospital scene. And, you know, Annalise, you know, talking about Annalise in jail, it so happens that someone in her jail cell had seen her defend somebody, knows she's a lawyer, and pretty much she's just, well, my computer's being crazy today, just blacked out, but hopefully you're still there. She just, you know, she's struggling to use the bathroom. She's struggling to use, which, I mean, we all would, I'm sure. She gets visitors from as Bonnie, and that's when she tells Bonnie that Bonnie needs to take the case because everything is so, again, convoluted and tricky, and there's so many layers of this onion of how to get away with murder, and there's so many lies. It's the web of lies. So she tells Bonnie she has to take the case, and, you know, she's clearly struggling in jail, again, like I think any of us would, but we don't see any of her emotion. She doesn't really talk about Wes. She doesn't really talk about the case. She doesn't talk about anything yet. So I'm curious to see, you know, when she breaks. And we kind of see that she's going to break next week. We're not quite sure when, how, why. But there is going to be some, you know, Annalise was a little quiet this episode. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. She was a little quiet. So that's pretty much going on with that. Outside of that, we have Michaela's mom who finally, you know, left. After Michaela was trying to kick her out, she left. One of the other big things that's happening is Oliver now is completely involved because Annalise saw Oliver after she saw the explosion, after she saw that somebody was dead, and she told him to wipe his phone, to wipe her phone, and Oliver did it. We learn at the end of the episode that Oliver actually saved a file of the phone. So that's going to be really interesting to see what comes out of that file. Like what is on the phone, who she called, who's involved. I don't know. For some reason, I know this is crazy. For some reason, I think Nate's somehow still intertwined and involved. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe she called Nate. I don't know. He's still lurking around. One of the other things real quick that happened with Nate is that the girlfriend or the girl he was kind of sleeping with at the moment, like who was against Annalise, was what is her name? She was the one that wants to Renee. Renee was her name, I think. They kind of want Nate to go away now because they know that Nate went to visit Annalise, and we know that Nate told Annalise that he was dead beforehand, but nobody else knows that. So we're just gonna have to see what happens there. But they try to demote him, and then he comes out and says, we've been sleeping together, and that would probably be sexual harassment. So he's kind of got it, you know, worked out for himself, so he's not going to lose his job. He's not going to be demoted, and he's always got his hands in something somewhere. Could, after all, he not be the saint? I don't know. We're going to have to see what happens. Back to Oliver. Oliver's definitely struggling. He tells Connor that he has this phone, which, again, Connor tells all of them in the hospital room. But we see that, you know, they're just fighting, and Oliver still kind of loves Connor, but I don't think so. But it's a crazy back and forth. And again, like, Oliver straight out says, I know that you, like, Oliver's pretty much in the know. He knows that Sam went missing the night that, you know, Connor supposedly came home when he was on drugs or whatever. He knows that there's lies, and he's starting to put them together. And he pretty much asks if they have anything to do with Sam going missing and Sam's death. And Connor's pretty much like, well, do you really want to know? Because if you want to know, and once you do know, then it's a whole nother layer of the onion that you're involved in, Oliver. But Oliver does not want to know. So it's going to be very interesting. Again, I think Oliver is going to discover a lot of things for himself when he looks at that phone. And I wonder if he'll look at the phone and keep it to himself. I wonder who he's going to confide in first with that phone. I really am curious to see. Some of the other things that happen, you know, Asher apologizes to Connor for punching him, and Michaela and him make up, and that's fine. The other thing, the big thing that we see is that clearly Bonnie and Frank are staying together. They talk to each other. Frank wants to make sure that Bonnie believes him, which again, I'm not quite sure why. We know in the past they've had a sexual relationship, but who knows now if they do or not. So we're going to have to just figure that out. But at the end of the episode, the shocking thing that we see is we see Frank go and pretty much take responsibility. He makes a statement that or confession, I guess, that he killed Wes. Now, I'm not quite sure if he did or he did not, but it does cut to a scene with Wes leaving the police station and Wes running into Frank and Frank picking Wes up in the car. So again, I'm not quite sure what happens there. I mean, you know, Laurel says that someone was in the basement. Rebecca was killed in the basement. Does Frank tell Wes something to get Wes on his side, and Wes actually tries to blow up the house? I mean, I don't know. That's crazy. But I'm just trying to, again, think out of the box. You know, does Frank really just kill Wes? I feel like that's too easy. I feel like that's what we would think. Does Bonnie kill Wes? Is Connor involved? I feel like, I don't know. I don't know. Like, we don't see Connor picking up his phone right away if you go back a few episodes when they're trying to figure out who's there, who's not. But again, this is just all my speculation and all what I think could possibly be happening. And I want to hear from you guys. So please, again, leave some comments below. I'm going to try and put these up, you know, quicker to, or more closer to when they air, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like maybe on Friday or Saturday or something, so that we can all keep up together. But like I said, this show is one of my favorite shows ever. It makes your mind just go all different ways, which is a whole lot of fun. And I feel like, you know, usually someone leaves a comment, the right comment, and somehow it's figured out. If I look back at all the comments we've had, you know, people have said what's happened. So I want to hear from you again. All right, well, leave me a comment, question, anything. You can follow me at IAMSTEFZ or on Instagram and Twitter, and you can leave comments here. Okay, great. We'll see you next week.